Hello and welcome to a Balls.ie tradition like no other. It is, of course, Guess the Handicaps, our weekly GAA show that we've been running for years on Balls, and we're on YouTube now. So if you're new to the channel, please do hit the subscribe button. We'll be back with you here every Friday. Lots of other great videos on Balls as well. I'm Mick McCarthy, delighted to be joined today to Guess the Handicaps by Donny Mahoney and Gary Connaughton. And lads, as well as guessing the handicaps, we're going to talk about the start of the football season, our first football in over 5 months. And we want you to get involved in the comments. Who is going to win the Football All-Ireland? Is it just going to be Dublin? Of course it is. But if you hold out any hope, if you're of the hopeful type, please do let us know who you're going to be. Let's get into guessing the handicaps. I've picked 8 games across the football and hurling this year, this week, and we're going to get you to guess the handicaps now. We've left out a couple of big ones because I'm more interested in the handicap than the actual big game. So if you have nothing to say on any of the other games, we'll get to them at the end. But I'm going to start with the football season is back. Division 1, Saturday evening, Kerry versus Galway. What's the handicap? Actually, do you know what? Whatever about the handicap, I can't wait for this game. Kerry haven't played a game of football since the marking goal in what feels like 1997. I think it was in the Munster semi-final last year, and it just feels like it's another world. We're going to see the green and gold again.
Yeah, like everyone had such high expectations for Kerry last year in the championship, and then the bubble was completely burst at the first hurdle, and then everyone had kind of just accepted and resigned themselves that Dublin were going to walk to another All-Ireland, and that kind of did turn out to be the case. So This is the first chance we're going to get to have a look at them and see maybe this can be the year that they finally get one over on Dublin, but it's obviously early days yet.
Definitely, yeah. We don't know what we're going to expect in the league. I think we'll talk about the hurling later, but if that is anything to go by, then so far it's got to be a few question marks, I think, around as we head towards the championship. But I suppose Dublin did march. Like what we had last year was this unbelievable Kerry's, our Cavan story and the Tipperary story and everything else. Mayo coming back somewhat, but when you think back on it now, none of it seems that exciting because all you think about is the fact that Dublin just sauntered towards another All-Ireland and it was an underwhelming 6 in a row in front of no people in Croke Park. I think that if we're to not have that feeling again this year, Kerry need to be good, or maybe Galway need to be good, Donny.
Well, actually, the best story of last year's football season was actually Galway, and if we can cast your mind back to before this terrible pandemic and just how good Galway were at football, and then this bastard COVID comes and ruins everything for Porrick Joyce. What might have been if the season was allowed to carry on uninterrupted? That's what I want to know. We were screwed of just a brilliant Galway team, and I think they have unfinished business. They're the team that I'm quite interested to see what they can bring to 2021.
Yeah. Donny, of course, you might know him. You might know his face on this channel, in fact, from being a Yank goes to the All-Ireland and a Yank goes to the All-Ireland 2, the sequel. But, he is a Yank. He has, you can hear it in his voice. He's now residing in Wicklow, GAA stronghold. But where are your people from, Donny? Just
my people are from Kilkerran, which is about 5 kilometres from Galway. 5 kilometres from Glenamaddie. So we're just near the Galway-Roscommon border, but very much on the Galway side, thankfully.
Just in case anybody was curious as to the Galway rant there in a minute. We'll get to Gary's County in a few minutes. Let's do the handicap here, lads. Before we get to, I just have a quick snag for this week, right? While I was checking these handicaps, or before I was checking them, while I was checking the fixtures, I did make my own guesses. Now, I'm not in the competition, but I'm giving you both the option before you pick. Donny's going to go first here on this one. Gary, you'll go first on the next one. If you want to check what my guess was, and the reason you have the option is because it could either be help or hindrance to know that information. So you can pick it on a game-by-game basis as to whether you want to know what my guess was or not. But anyway, Donny, you're up first for Kerry versus Galway, Saturday evening, Division 1.
I appreciate the piggyback that you're offering me, Mick, but I won't be taking that. I'm very content in my knowledge of this fixture, and Kerry, probably the most overrated side in the country, and the bookings will regularly give them more points than they deserve. This seems like a pretty easy slam dunk Kerry -3.
Gary.
Yeah, I was also going to say -3. but I think I'll go -2. So instead of -2.
Wow. Interestingly, Gary takes the lead because it is in fact Kerry -2. We're not going for 2 points for an exact score this year. That might be something we develop over the weeks, but I do find there are too many right scores when we were picking our GAA handicap. So Gary just gets the first point and he has the honour. So we're going to stick with Division 1, Gary. We're doing 3 of the 4 Division 1 games, and we're moving on to Sunday, where the Connacht, well, they're not Connacht champions anymore, actually. The former Connacht champions, Roscommon, will welcome the Mighty Dubs to Dr. Hyde Park, a.k.a. The Hyde. And, well, look, I mean, it's our first chance to see Dublin, who've been out training at least once over the course of the pandemic. I don't think we can say that about Roscommon, at least not to our knowledge. So Dublin getting a head start on the opposition here is definitely something they would have needed, I'd imagine.
Yeah, like home advantage, I don't think is going to count for much in this league campaign, just because of where the teams are at, and also because there's no spectators. But it's going to count for even less in this game because it's Dublin against Roscommon. Like, obviously, no disrespect to Roscommon, but they've been here before for the last few years, where they come up to they walk through Division 2, come up to Division 1, get hammered in most games, maybe win one at the end, but get relegated easily. So maybe it'll be different this year because it's going to be a weird league season, but you'd imagine even a half-strength Dublin team would be, with all the training they've done, should be running out comfortable winners here.
Now, you say no disrespect to Roscommon. Now, Donny said where his family is from, near Glenamaddy on the Galway-Roscommon border. You're wearing a Westmeath top there, I can't say. What area are you from exactly?
Athlone. So.
Athlone, yeah. And what county is basically half of Athlone?
Yeah, that'd be Roscommon. Yeah,
I'm questioning both of your opinions when it comes to Roscommon here. The mighty Rossies will never be beaten, and I won't hear anything else said about them, unless you want to pick the handicap here, in which case we can have a.
Yeah, I'm gonna go -7 for Dublin.
He also decided not to avail of my previous guest, Donny, but this seems like this lifeline isn't going to be used here. No, people don't respect me enough.
Well, it's not that we don't respect you. I think we just want to prove that we can do it on our own. That it's like trying to climb Everest without a Sherpa. That's kind of what we're trying to do here. I think when I saw this fixture, I thought Roscommon +6, Dublin -6 straight away. That's just sort of instinct. I don't really know what that is. I mean, you think Dublin don't have a manager for the match, so that's going to be hard. Like, they're going to have to play the match without a manager.
Yeah,
so that'll be the point. They've had some retirements, of course, and I think there's probably a feeling of fallibility probably sneaking in around there. So I don't know. I think this is Dublin -6.
Okay, I can tell you that neither of you got it right this time. And I can tell you that Gary is closer because it's Dublin -8. I also went for -6 on this one, but Dublin -8 is what we've got. 2-0 to Gary. So holding his serve there to follow up from his break on the previous one. Donny, you're going to go first for our other Division 1 time. Just on the thing on Dublin, though, it's like you're talking about fallibility sticking in or creeping in. That's what I thought last year. I thought, Jim Gavin was gone, and there was a few players getting older, and maybe that next generation hadn't quite proven themselves yet, and they just sauntered to their easiest All-Ireland yet. So I'm refusing to be a believer in the competition at this stage, but I don't know. Let's wait and see how the Rossies get on Sunday. Anyway, other Division 1 game on Sunday. We're leaving out Tyrone and Donegal. I have handicaps for these if you want them, but we're going with Monaghan Armagh because I thought this was a really tough one. Armagh with 2 promotions in a row back to Division 1. Monaghan, perennial Division 1ers. What do you reckon, Donny?
Where is this fixture taking place?
In Clonus, I'd imagine. Monaghan are at home.
It's tough. Monaghan, very reliable league outfit. Solid Division 1. Always there in the mid-table. Always good for like a good win. They had their own pre-season training incidents as well. Don't forget. They're not the only team to have been training. This
another team, no manager, but plenty of miles on the legs coming into this pitch.
And I'm going to say that Armagh do not have. They've got rid of Jamie Clark, but they have Kieran Donaghy now. Is that now?
Yeah, but he's not full forward.
Okay, so he's not available for selection.
Not a direct replacement for Jamie Clark, but he is involved in Kieran McGeeney's setup. Yeah.
Okay, I'm buying a bit of time for myself. I'm going to settle around northern teams. It's always close. I'm going to go Monaghan -2.
Okay, northern teams are as close. Gary,
I would have went -2 as well.
As did I. Nobody's asked me, but I also went.
But I don't know. Like, these Ulster games are weird because I think when they're two Ulster teams, the handicap might be lower than it should be. So maybe I'll go -1 for Monaghan.
Oh my God, Gary is stretching ahead here. 3-0 lead. He's broken Donny's serve again. Donny, Division 1 didn't suit you. We'll have a couple of games in Division 2 under Hurling. You're not gone yet, right? Mayo versus Down. We've got this is a football fixture now. Mayo versus Down. Easily could be, or it feels like a Christy Ring Cup game. But they played in the championship at the qualifiers a couple of years ago, and Mayo just scraped through on their way to, I think, one of their All-Ireland finals. But Mayo versus Down. What do you think? Mayo relegated last year, but then went on to get to the All-Ireland final. Won Connacht.
First time they've been in Division 2 since like the mid-90s, I think. It's like crazy.
Is it?
Yeah, I remember at the time it was like, well, it's definitely the first time they've been relegated since the mid-90s anyway to Division 2. Maybe they were down for a couple of years. But yeah, like, it's unbelievable for a team to stay in Division 1 for that long. Like, they were easily the longest in it. But, like, I don't know, Mayo fans are an excitable bunch at the best times, but I can't imagine them being too excited to campaign in Division 2 this year after. Well, I suppose.
What are you talking about? Division 2 is the best league in any sport. Division 2 in Gaelic football is the best league in the world.
As a West Meath man, I know all about it, Nick. But like Mayo are going to be favourites here, obviously. Down. I'm going to go -4 for Mayo.
Donny.
Can I ask the venue?
The venue is, again, I don't know the exact venues. I'm guessing county grounds, but again with no I haven't actually looked that up, unfortunately, and with obviously no crowds, people tend to move these games. But my guess is that it's in McHale Park in Castlebar.
Well, I feel snookered. I'm going to ask you, Mick, what did you go for?
Thanks, Donny. I feel good about that. I went for -3 for Mayo -3. Gary, yeah.
So you obviously thought Down. Well, I guess like Mayo, unfortunately, retired 40 players in the off season. So
I also feel like 3 is a healthy handicap in a game of Gaelic football. I have to say, when you haven't seen your team play so far this year.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna take your. It sounds a whole lot better than Mayo -5 to me, so I'm gonna go Mayo -3.
Yeah, I didn't feel guilty at all there now because there was nothing you could have done from the second Gary opened his mouth. Unfortunately, it is Mayo -4, and he goes 4-0 up. PJ will be in here next week replacing you at this rate.
I would like to point out that even though I didn't play this, I wasn't on the podcast to play this game every week over the last couple of years. I think I've never lost it for some reason. I just felt like.
Well, that's fighting talk, Gary. I wouldn't have pointed that out if I was you because.
Oh well, look, we'll see how it goes.
And the next game that Donny has to pick first is none other than the Meath Derby. East Meath versus Westmeath in Navan, I presume. Division 2 on Sunday. Of course, one of the great games that I ever can remember in football was Westmeath beating Meath in the championship. Unfortunately, I don't remember any of the other games, and Meath won them all. Not a great record Westmeath having this fixture, Gary.
No, that one win in 2015 was our first ever win over Meath in the championship. We were 10 points down at one stage, so I was at the game. It was absolutely unbelievable. I was in Hill 16 watching the game with and like all the Dublin were playing Kildare afterwards as well. All the Dubs were coming in for the last kind of 15-20 minutes and sure, obviously shouting against Meath, so it was some crack. But yeah, our record against Meath is abysmal in general. So
Meath relegated last year.
Yeah, like Westmeath last year, for the first time in years, didn't get promoted or relegated. They're the biggest yo-yo county like in all of sport. They seem to get relegated or promoted every year, just constantly going up from down to Division 4, up to Division 1 and back again. But this year I'm feeling good, I'm optimistic. So I'm going to say Meath -3.
Donny, I will tell you here, because you can't say Meath -3, that there is a chance to steal. I'm not saying that you have much leeway or anything like it. There's nothing else from what I'm saying other than he hasn't got it exact.
By the way, I would just like to point out that I wouldn't pick Meath -3. I just think that's what the bookies would have picked.
Yeah,
I would.
Well, you were wrong about that, but I won't say any more for now.
Can I just say? I just wanted to launch a steward's inquiry about the decision not to start with the hurling fixtures.
Okay, go ahead. What's your steward's
inquiry? I just think
that
would have. I think by starting with the football fixtures, we played to Gary's strengths here, and it sort of set me back. I've lost my momentum, sort of negatively. And
this was a GAA competition. I mean, you don't necessarily have to have, like, is hurling your forte? We'll see when we get to those fixtures. But I mean, if you still have a complaint after he whitewashes you on the hurling as well, I'll come back to and see. Look, Donny, this is all still to play for. You win the next four, there's a playoff, a sudden death tiebreaker. So, and I told you there's a chance to steal here.
All right, we're going to go Meath -4.
Relegated from Division 1 last season. Lots of signs of, like, I would say, for a team who I don't think they won a match and lost them all, but everybody seems like as if Meath are making progress. There seems to be kind of a general happiness in the Andy McEntee regime, and Westmeath, as Gary says, for the first time in our lifetimes, neither relegated nor promoted last year, a perennial Division 2 team all of a sudden.
I'm going to go Meath -4 then.
I hope I wasn't leading you there, but it is in fact Meath -4. I feel in retrospect, accidentally, I was leading you towards.
I spoke over you, and just as you started into leading me on, I got there to Meath -4. You only confirmed what I'd already said.
That's fine. I appreciate that. I would have said -3, Gary, as well, by the way, just so you know. Okay, well, that's the football, and Donny remains alive by a whisker. Other football games that we should look out for this weekend. Tyrone and Donegal is a slightly big one in the football, in Division 1, the football. That was Tyrone -1, and I just thought we're probably all right with 1 -1 game. I thought it was quite obvious actually that it was going to be that 2 even teams. You go with the home advantage, and Cork and Kildare in Division 2, and of course lots of brilliant Division 3-4 that we might look, if it comes to a tiebreaker, we might dip our toe into one of those games. Onto the hurling then. We're not talking about Galway Limerick, which is probably the best game of the weekend, but again not the most interesting of handicaps, but an unbelievable game that everybody should absolutely watch. Is probably the 2 best teams in the country. Tipp and Cork might be 2 teams that have something to say about that. The old Munster rivals meet in Division 1A on Saturday. Tipp drew with Limerick last week, 20 points all. Pretty poor game to watch. Cork, though, absolutely dominant. 5 goals they scored against Waterford. Promoting conversations and headlines and tweets and various different comments, including Donald Cusack, that Cork were primed to win All-Ireland, which I thought was a little bit of an overreaction to the first round of the league. But there's nothing like Cork with their backs up.
Yeah, it's exciting times for Cork. I mean, congratulations on the first victory they've had in maybe a year or so. My mind is back in the last segment because we made it through the football without any mention of Cavan.
This is what happens when Mark Harley's not here.
Cavan are in Division 3 this season. They got relegated last year in the most dramatic relegation of all time. From mid-table in Division 2 on the last day to relegation. An unbelievable confluence of events. And they are playing Fermanagh away from home.
Wow.
Yeah, so Mark's departure from Balls Media has meant that Cavan mentions on site and on our podcast and YouTube streams have gone down 9,246% was my recent calculation. So we're actually addressing that a little bit here.
Yeah, we address. Here, who's the first? Is it my shout here with Cork and Tipp?
It is your shout. Yeah, you're up first.
And is this in Semple Stadium or in the beautiful green of Páirc Uí Chaoimh?
It is in Semple Stadium.
Okay.
Also beautiful and green.
Also, yeah, maybe just not as beautiful, but quite beautiful. Where did you lie in this one? Like, I'm curious.
I can tell you that I didn't get it exact and that I went for Tipp -2.
Okay.
Well, that's a massive hint.
But that's what that's been on offer to you the entire time.
I thought you weren't going to say what if you got it right or wrong. You were just going to say what you guessed.
Oh, okay. Maybe I've changed the rules afterwards here.
That's an interesting rule, but I think so. Tips are
Enjoy the drama, Gary, and stop moaning.
I'm here for the win.
I was thinking Tipp -2 as well, so it leaves me in a funny place. Is there the Cork seem like kind of like a public team with like in like the Green Bay Packers or something like that, a team that people like to bet on or get behind and all this kind of thing. Tipp have the class, but I'm gonna say I think the fair line is Tipp -3.
Gary.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that between people betting on Cork and there just being a big overreaction to last week's hammering against hammering the Waterford, that will be -1.
You're right, and you've secured the victory. I have to say, Donnie, that was there for you. Like, in fairness, like I had -2, but I never thought it would be -3. I thought it was, it would be 2. I think it should be 2. I don't know how much money is coming in from Cork on Thursday of the week of a league match in Ireland, but you never know. And but at the same time, overreactions are everything in this business. And we got to learn these things. Donnie, you'll get better as the weeks goes on. You'll see the trends, or maybe you'll just be asking the questions next week.
We'll see.
Massive game in Ennis, Gary, in case you're going to ask, in Cusack Park on Sunday, Division 1B. Clare, the victims of the mighty Saffrons of Antrim last weekend, will take on Davy Fitzgerald and Wexford. Coming to Davy doesn't have. I wonder will Davy go to Wexford and then come back to Clare? It seems like a lot of needless travelling, but you never know. Davy versus Brian Lowen, always an interesting one. Clare beat Wexford in league and championship last season when the two managers met, but things don't look too great for the Banner at the moment, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's kind of the opposite effect of what happened with Cork coming into -1 in the other game could be here, because losing to Antrim will definitely have knocked the socks out of any momentum behind Clare, and then Wexford had a big win too. So even though Clare are at home, I don't know. I think. Do you know what? I'm going to go even.
I see where you're coming from, Donnie.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say thanks to Gary for keeping the competition going, even though it's technically over. At least he's sort of safe face for me, because Wexford they hammered Laois at the weekend by about 40 points. Clare in the state, and you know that Davy Fitz will love nothing more after how last year's season ended than to travel up to Ennis, up from 6 Mile Bridge, that little spin up the N18 or whatever, and then just rub his face in all the Lowlands. So I think. I mean, I'll just say Wexford -1.
Wexford -1 is what I said too, actually, and it is shockingly Clare -1, which means that Gary gets the point, gets a 6-1 lead for ahead of the last game, which is obviously, as we know, worth 8 points. No, it's not. Gary's already won. The next one is really hard. I'll tell you what, though, I'm going to give, even though it doesn't matter, the next one is so hard, I am going to give 2 points if somebody gets it exact. Kilkenny host Antrim at Nolan Park. Poor Antrim. They're back in Division 1. They got the win at Corrigan Park. It's brilliant for them. And their reward is to go down to the ruthless Kilkenny. Now, you never know. Hopefully we see lightning strike twice, I suppose. But I don't know if I could see it. I don't know what you think, Gary. No, Donnie.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, this feels like you're the hangover after the sort of great night out, and so maybe Antrim are hoping for a little bit of hair at the dog on this. I don't know. I think it'll be a big spread. It's brilliant to have Antrim in the business doing stuff. I'm still shocked at that Clare are favourites to win any kind of match.
Clare aren't as bad. Is it all that bad though? Really? Like I know for a fact that Clare weren't like in any way training. I'm not suggesting anybody else was, which means that they've been together 3 weeks. They have to go up to this horrible trip to Antrim, who are revitalised and clearly weren't ready for it. Like that's not a good sign. I'm not saying it is, but is it the end of the world? And doesn't mean that the season could be completely underwritten. Lots of good hurlers still there. They're still trying out things. They played John Conlon centre back for, I think, the first time he's played there in 6 years, in which he played like one season for Clonlara, his club. You know, there's a lot of things there that we just say, like, let's wait and see how it goes. I don't think Brian Lohan did a bad job last season. Clare weren't good enough and they were well beaten by Limerick and Waterford. But in the meantime, had some decent performances at least along the way, including that win over Wexford.
League campaign. I was just going to say, this league campaign is so weird because in one way it's like the least important league campaign ever because teams weren't training and we were saying like that we can't really take anything away from it. But in another way, it's also the most important league campaign ever because championship is about 2 weeks away and this is their only chance to get fitness. So like it's completely paradoxical, the whole thing. But yeah, like it is hard to know. But how quick can teams get fit is the thing. Like it's between championships only a few weeks ago.
Yeah, or even like get match fit and get up to speed on the skills and the tactics, especially these days, of a game. And look, fair enough, if Antrim, like, no matter what, like, there's no reason that Darren Gleeson should be doing a better job with Antrim than Brian Lawton is doing with Clare. And they should get a lot of credit for it as well, which we're about to talk about now when we pick their things. But I still think that there's a slight overreaction to the fact that I think Antrim on their first game back in the big time almost after qualifying for Division 1 and then winning the Joe McDonagh were always going to be very, very up for the first people that they invited up to Belfast. And I feel that there's a bit of a rising tide there that I think was going to at least cause problems for a lot of teams. Now, I think most of the other top teams, if not all of them, would have managed that a little bit better and come out on top, even in maybe had a scare or two. And that's the worry for Clare. But I also think that until we see what happens this weekend and even next weekend, I don't think it's any time for panic for sure.
Oh yeah, and I wouldn't write Clare off at all, but I just think it's a short recovery, and Wexford, I think, are the other part of the equation, and they seem, like they have unfinished business from how bad things went for them last year, and they're going to be, I think, serious enough this time, for the league anyway. So I think, and there's, there is bad blood there from Davy. So anyway, let's move it on.
I do think that's fair. I would just say that, again, it's going to be hard for teams to kind of turn up week in, week out in the kind of current format as well. So I wonder, is home advantage going to mean a lot over the course of the league?
Yeah. Well, that brings me into this.
Sorry, I was just going to say, you see Davy Fitz on Ireland's Fittest Families telling teenagers that the other families are laughing at them. So I can only imagine what he's saying to the Wexford panel for a trip down to Clare.
Kilkenny onto this weekend's game. They do strike you as a sort of they strike you as this kind of ruthless league operator who just won't have any won't make any mess of this at all. Pretty effective and clinical beating Dublin last weekend, I believe. I would say this is Kilkenny minus 11.
Because we've seen what can happen with Galway and Westmeath and stuff last week in Division 1 and Hurling. I think people know that there can be big scores in these games. So I want to say I think it will be there's 2 points available for spot on, is there?
2 points if you get it spot on, yeah. And this is the last match.
Yeah. If I was playing tactically, I'd say minus 12, but I'm going to say minus 14.
Okay, Donnie, you said minus 11, did you?
That's correct.
Okay, for the first time, I have to do a little bit of maths on this one, but Donnie wins. He gets his point 6-2. If Gary was playing more conservative, would have got it dead on because it's Kilkenny minus 12. So 6-2 is something to work on for the next couple of weeks, Donnie. I think you're sacked next week. Gary will defend his title against PJ, and then you will maybe the following week be allowed to come in and challenge whoever the champion may be. Gary, pretty confident that that'll be you, I think, given your mouth earlier.
No, well, look, I'm just here to talk a big game and then fall massively and let everybody down in a week or two. So I'm looking forward to that already.
You said Westmeath. You think the bookies will say Westmeath are by the street, not necessarily you. They actually said -4, but do you think Westmeath will win this weekend?
It's impossible to know, like, really, isn't it? Like, because it's the first one.
That's why we're here to say who knows what's going to happen.
I always give Westmeath more of a chance than I should, but I think Meath and Westmeath, they've played a bit in leagues and O'Byrne Cups and stuff in the last few years, and they're always pretty close games usually. So I'd say it will be close, but yeah, Westmeath are definitely going to win. Why not?
What's the level of Westmeath hatred for Meath? You're in the Wexford county, so it's
it's a weird thing in Westmeath. It's like if you're from Athlone, you probably don't like Roscommon the most. If you're from like around Moat, it's probably Offaly. And if you're up from Mullingar, it's probably Meath, because we're just bordered from different counties. And like we'd go to school with people from Roscommon, and it'd be different up there. But like I think if you're up from Mullingar around there, Meath is definitely the ones you want to beat the most. I'm not sure how much attention Meath pay to us, but
well, they don't even themselves East Meath. They don't even have the manners to give themselves a direction. They claim the entire county for themselves. The absolute cheek. But anyway, Donny, have you any final thoughts before we depart and watch Gaelic football for the first time this year?
Well, you mentioned Meath here in Auckland. We're welcoming Meath to our fortress this weekend as the Meath Hurlers arrive for a big clash in 2B against our Wicklow Hurlers. And can I say that I was looking at the pitch today and it looks magnificent, ready for action.
Yeah. Another trip to Fortress Auckram this weekend is going to be Offaly, and I forgot that you've moved to Auckram. You're in close proximity to Fortress Auckram, the beautiful pitch there. Like, I mean, I don't know, and crowds won't be allowed in, but if you could see the pitch from your house vantage point, I'm just going to say John Motton's tan legs, they will be on show. If you get a good view of them, just protect your eyes at all times.
I'll try. If I can get a selfie with his legs, I will.
Okay. Please protect. Please make sure that you are sticking with COVID guidelines at all times, Donny. Do not invade the pitch, Manchester United fan style, just for a shot at John Motton's legs. They could be back in the Leinster Championship. I haven't looked at the draw, but you might be able to get in when it comes to that. Anyway, that's it for now. We're rambling. Well, I'm rambling. It's time to go. We'll be back with more Guess the Handicaps next week. If you want to keep an eye on all of our videos, please do subscribe to the channel. Hit the subscribe button here on YouTube. And, of course, please do continue to get your comments in. We want to know who's going to win the Football All-Ireland, and is it going to just be Dublin again? We'll talk a little bit more about that next week, and we'll have lots more as well for more Guess the Handicaps from the Football and Hurling Alliance Leagues. We'll have some real competition for Gary next week as well. Talk to you then.